Hello friends, and welcome to Happy Tappy ASMR. Today I am going to be doing a requested video for a soft spoken poetry reading. So I will be reading Robert Frost in the Clearing for you today, and I hope you enjoy. I won't read the entire book, but I will read a good few poems for you. So I hope that the rhythm of my words and just the poetry itself helps lull you to sleep. In the Clearing by Robert Frost. But God's own descent into flesh was meant as a demonstration that the supreme merit lay in risking spirit in substantiation. Spirit enters flesh, and for all its worth charges into earth in birth after birth, ever fresh and fresh. We may take the view that its daring do, thought of in the large, is one mighty charge on our human part of the soul's ethereal into the material. That was the dedication or preface. I'm not sure which, honestly. Pod of the milkweed. Calling all butterflies of every race, from source unknown but from no special place, they ever will return to all their lives, because unlike the bees they have no hives. The milkweed brings up to my very door the theme of want and waste in peace and war, as it has never been to me before. And so it seems a flower's coming out, that should if not be talked then sung about. The countless wings that from the infinite make such a noiseless tumult over it, do no doubt with their colors compensate for what the drab weed lacks of the ornate. For drab it is, its fondest must admit. And yes, although it is a flower that flows with milk and honey, it is bitter milk, as anyone who ever broke its stem and dared to taste the wound a little knows. It tastes as if it might be opiate, but whatsoever else it may secrete, its flower's distilled honey is so sweet, it makes the butterflies intemperate, for there is no slumber in its juice for them. One knocks another off from where he clings. They knock the dye stuff off each other's wings, with thirst and hunger to the point of lust. They raise in their intemperance a cloud of mingled butterfly and flower dust that hangs perceptibly above the scene. In being sweet to these ephemerals, the sober weed has managed to contrive in our 300 days and 65, one day too sweet for beings to survive. Many shall come away as struggle-worn and spent and dusted off their regalia, to which at daybreak they were freshly born, as after one of them's proverbial failure from having beaten all day long in vain against the wrong side of a window pane. But waste was of the essence of the scheme, and all the good they did for man or God to all those flowers they passionately trod, was leave as their posterity one pod with an inheritance of restless dream. He hangs on upside down with taloned feet in an inquisitive position odd as any Guatemalan parakeet. Something eludes him. Is it food to eat, or some dim secret of the good of waste? He almost has it in his talon clutch. Where have those flowers and butterflies all gone, that science may have stocked the future on? He seems to say the reason why so much should come from nothing must be fairly faced, and shall be in due course. Away. Now I out walking, the world desert, and my shoe and my stocking do me no hurt. I leave behind good friends in town, let them get well wined and go lie down. Don't think I leave for the outer dark, like Adam and Eve out of the park. Forget the myth, there is no one I am put out with or put out by. Unless I'm wrong, I but obey the urge of a song, I'm bound away. and I may return if dissatisfied from what I learn from having died. A Cabin in the Clearing for Alfred Edwards. Mist. I don't believe the sleepers in this house know where they are. Smoke. They've been here long enough to push the woods back from around the house and part them in the middle with a path. Mist. And still I doubt if they know where they are, and I begin to fear they never will. All they maintain the path is for their comfort, of visiting with the equally bewildered. Nearer in plight their neighbors are than distance. Smoke. I'm the guardian wraith of starlit smoke that leans out this and that way from their chimney. I will not have their happiness despaired of. Mist. No one, not I, would give them up for lost, simply because they do not know where they are. I am the damper counterpart of smoke that gives off from a guardian ground at night, but lifts no higher than a garden grows. I cotton to their landscape. That's who I am. I'm no farther from their fate than you are. Smoke. They must by now have learned the native tongue. Why don't they ask the red man where they are? Mist. They often do, and none the wiser for it. So do they also ask philosophers who come to look in on them from the pulpit. They will ask anyone there is to ask. In the fond faith accumulated fact will of itself take fire and light the world up. Learning has been a part of their religion. Smoke. If the day ever comes when they know who they are, they may know better where they are. But who they are is too much to believe, either for them or the onlooking world. They are too sudden to be credible. Mist. Listen, they murmur, talking in the dark, on what should be their day-long theme continued. Putting the lamp out has not put their thought out. Let us pretend the dewdrops from the eaves are you and I eavesdropping on their unrest. A mist and smoke eavesdropping on a haze, and see if we can tell the bass from the soprano. Then smoke and mist, who better could appraise the kindred spirit of an inner haze? Closed for good. They come not back with steed and chariot to chide my slowness with their speed and scare me to one side. They have found other scenes for haste and other means. They leave the road to me to walk in, saying not, perhaps, but to a tree, inaudibly in thought. From you the road receives a priming coat of leaves, and soon for lack of sun the prospects are in white. It will be further done, but with a coat so light the shape of leaves will show beneath the spread of snow. And so on into winter, till even I have ceased to come as a footprinter, and only some slight beast, so mousy or so foxy, shall print there as my proxy. One more brevity. I opened the door so my last look should be taken outside a house and book. Before I gave up seeing and slept, I said I would see how Sirius kept his watchdog eye on what remained, to be gone into if not explained. But scarcely was my door ajar, when past the leg I thrust for bar, slipped in to be my problem guest, not a heavenly dog made manifest, but an earthly dog of the carriage breed, who having failed of the modern speed, now asked asylum, and I was stirred to be the one so dog preferred. He dumped himself like a bag of bones, he sighed himself a couple of groans, and head to tail then firmly curled like swearing off on the traffic world. I set him water, I set him food. He rolled an eye with gratitude, or merely manners it may have been, but never so much as lifted chin. His hard tail loudly smacked the floor as if beseeching me, please no more, I can't explain, tonight at least. His brow was perceptibly trouble-creased, so I spoke in terms of adoption thus. Gusty old boy, Dalmatian Gus, you're right, there's nothing to discuss. Don't try to tell me what's on your mind, the sorrow of having been left behind, or the sorrow of having run away. All that can wait for the light of day. Meanwhile, feel obligation free. Nobody has to confide in me. 'Twas too one-sided a dialogue, and I wasn't sure I was a talking dog. I broke off baffled, but all the same, in fancy, I ratified his name. Gusty, Dalmatian Gus, that is, and started shaping my life to his, finding him in his right supplies and sharing his miles of exercise. The next morning, the minute I was about, he was at the door to be let out, with an air that said, "I've paid my call, you mustn't feel hurt if now I'm all for going back somewhere or further on." I opened the door and he was gone. I was to taste in little the grief that comes of dogs' lives being so brief, only a fraction of ours at most. He must have been the dream of a ghost. In spite of the way his tail had smacked my floor so hard and matter-of-fact, and things have been going so strangely since, I wouldn't be too hard to convince. I might even claim he was serious, thinking of presuming to call him Gus, the star himself, heaven's greatest star, not a meteorite, but an avatar, who had made an overnight descent to show by deeds he didn't resent my having depended on him so long, and yet done nothing about it in a song. A symbol was all he could hope to convey, an intimation, a shot of ray, a meaning I was supposed to seek, and finding, wasn't disposed to speak. Escapist never. He is no fugitive, escaped, escaping. No one has seen him stumble looking back. His fear is not behind him, but beside him, on either hand to make his course perhaps a crooked straightness, yet no less a straightness. He runs face forward, he is a pursuer. He seeks a seeker who in his turn seeks another still, lost far into the distance. Any who seek in him the seeker. His life is a pursuit of a pursuit forever. It is the future that creates his present. It is an interminable chain of longing. Accidentally on purpose. The universe is but the thing of things, the thing but balls all going round in rings. Some of them mighty huge, some mighty tiny, all of them radiant and mighty shiny. They mean to tell us all was rolling blind till accidentally it hit on mind an albino monkey in a jungle, and even then it had to grope and bungle, till Darwin came to earth upon a year to show the evolution how to steer. They mean to tell us, though, the omnibus had no real purpose till it got to us. Never believe it. At the very worst, it must have had the purpose from the first, to produce purpose as the fitter bred. We were just purpose coming to a head. Whose purpose was it? His or hers or its? Let's leave that to the scientific wits. Grant me intention, purpose, and design. That's near enough for me to the divine. And yet for all this help of head and brain, how happily instinctive we remain. Our best guide upward, further to the light, passionate preference, such a love at sight. A never not song. There was never not, there was always thought. But when noticed first, it was fairly burst into having weight. It was in a state of atomic one. Matter was begun, and in fact complete, one and yet discrete to conflict and pair. Everything was there, every single thing, waiting was to bring, clear from hydrogen all the way to men. It is all will ever be, bull and branch and root, cunningly minute. And this gist of all is so infra small as to blind our eyes to its guise and so render nil. Version. Once there was an archer, and there was a minute when he shot a shaft on a new departure. Then he must have laughed, comedy was in it, for the game he hunted was the non-existence, and his shaft got blunted on its non-resistance. A concept self-conceived. The latest creed that has to be believed and entered in our childish catechism is that the all's a concept self-conceived, which is no more than good old pantheism. Great is the reassurance of recall. Why go on farther with confusing voice to say God's either all or over all? The rule is never give a child a choice. Forgive, O Lord, my little jokes on thee, and I'll forgive thy great big one on me. Ends. Loud talk in the overlighted house that made us stumble past. Oh, there had once been night the first, but this was night the last. Of all the things he might have said, sincere or insincere, he never said she wasn't young and hadn't been his dear. Oh, some as soon would throw it all as throw a part away, and some will say all sorts of things, but some mean what they say. And with that, I'm going to end our poetry reading time. There's more poems in here, and I have another book of poetry, so if you enjoy me reading poems, just let me know, and I can make more of these. Let me know if you prefer whispered or soft-spoken as well, and I hope you have a good night and sleep well. Bye.